thank you for the opportunity to carry on working on or showing the Greta project results, because it's a project that has been finalized a while ago, but it still well, have some messages to be shared. So thank you for this. I will structure my presentation. I have structured my presentation in 4 main points. I will start by showing a little bit of a Greta project as an overview and a snapshot of what it is and what could be the key resources out of the project. And also I'm going to give you some also overview of the maps that have been delivered by the project within a very deep description of them, but just for you to have the overview of the methodological approach and the resources that has been produced. And then I'm going to focus on the case study of Valencia metropolitan area because of time restrictions, although the presentation do have some slides also for the case in the Basque, Aquitania and Navarra area. And finally, I included some points for discussion based on the policy messages of the Greta project. I'm going to skip my video just to guarantee the stable connectivity. Yeah? Okay. So the Greta project adopts, as Michaela, I think already said, the concept or the definition that was suggested by the European Commission. So it's a strategically planned network that delivered a wide range of ecosystem services and also includes the idea of the network, of the connectivity between them. So the project deeply analyzes how the concept and this definition has been included in other in all ESPON countries and policies. Besides, it analyzes the benefits and the side effects of the green infrastructure at different scales from an environmental, social, and economic point of view. And as Michaela already said, you could see from the dots, the oranges, the dots, for instance, here, how the rural scale or the rural world all contribute a lot, and not only from an environmental point of view, but also in a social and economic point of view to the benefits of the green infrastructures. It also covers another specific theme, which is the overview of existing economic valuation studies about the benefits provided by the green infrastructure. So it's based on a literature review and a consultation with a number of stakeholders. The overview of these economic valuation studies navigates between different methods and also shows like the average value associated with green infrastructure, accounting for characteristics such as size and location of the infrastructure. So these are like 3 examples of the kind of outcomes by the Greta project. It also was undertaken an assessment on how the European countries implement the European GI or green infrastructure strategy. And this provided like an overview of 32 national policy fact sheets, in which I can make a summary. We can see that the policy areas in which the green infrastructure principles are mainstream to a different extent in land use and spatial development planning, agriculture, forestry and fisheries, and rural development. And I'm going to emphasize this one. There are some other policy sectors in which the green infrastructure are not that prominent, which are finance, health, and social services. And based on these results, the further discussion is to see which could be the best strategy to fulfill the GI gaps, let's say, either to further make an effort to integrate the green infrastructure principles into the policy areas where the principles are not that prominent, let's say finance, health, or social services, or just to focus on targets where the principles are already integrated. This is the discussion that we do have currently. Then another, let's say, the core of the backbone of the Greta project is also a novel spatial analysis of the green infrastructure that we undertook at European NUTS 2 and 3 levels. So the Greta uses this innovative spatial analysis approach that combines, on the one hand, as we could name, like a physical mapping, let's say, that is based on the hubs, which are protected areas based on Natura 2000, emerald sites, for instance, with other natural and semi-natural areas that are like links, no, or connectors, based on forest, grasslands, and other standard European data sets such as Greenland cover. We used also Copernicus high-resolution layers to identify high-value farmland, natural farmland. So with these hubs and connectors, we delivered what we call the physical mapping. But this is combined with an ecosystem services mapping, we call the multifunctionality approach. So we use indicators for the standardized comparison of how the different elements of the GI are able to deliver different ecosystem services that in turn also contribute to different policy objectives. In Greta, we analyze biodiversity, climate change and disaster risk reduction, and water management policies. So this is the kind of methodology that we applied to, on one hand, delineate the physical green infrastructure, and on the other side, analyze how the infrastructure is capable to deliver ecosystem services in support to policy objectives. With this, we managed to have like a standardized comparison of the potential for the GI across Europe, and a methodology that could be also transferable to other, let's say, scales. So if we do have a good, very detailed data sets, we could undertake this analysis in a very local level. So it's not only for Europe, but also could be downscaled to other levels. And understanding these methodologies is also very important to interpret the resulting maps. I'm gonna give you now like a very, very quick overview across the maps delivered by Greta, based on the application of the methodology that I explained, just for you to have a bit of a flavor of what the maps look like without entering into much more detail. I know that my colleague Gemma from the University of Barcelona will enter into much more detail on the ecosystem services approach used in Greta. So just to navigate through the maps, just for you to have this flavor. We do have some maps like, despite the spatial distribution of the network, let's say the physical mapping, in which we can see some patterns, very visible patterns, although it needs a little bit more analysis to understand. But then we can have like the multifunctionality map, in which you could see the different ecosystem services that benefits provided by the GI, and how many services are provided by this infrastructure. So at the end of the day, is how is the multifunctionality of the infrastructure. We also analyzed the urban green infrastructure, and in Europe, although we have used quite, let's say, old data sets, because we have used the period 2006 to 2012, but still we can see the areas in which the green infrastructure remains stable or increased or decreased, and just in in a very first sight, you can see that green infrastructure at urban level is either decreasing or very strong decreasing. We also delivered a map that I'm sure that Gemma is going to explain in a little bit more detail, as I said before, but is what is the analysis of the supply, of the balance between the supply and the demand of ecosystem services. And we analyzed what I saw here, the map for flood regulation, but we have delivered an analysis for also for soil erosion, water purification, and recreation. So basically what the map shows is areas in which there is more demand, or where the demand for a specific service is not complied by the existing GI. So an effort for delivering more green infrastructure, or to plan more infrastructure, is needed. So is where we can identify the spots or hot spots in need for green infrastructure, the deployment. We also undertook an analysis of the accessibility to green infrastructure, and that has been measured as the surface area of the green areas that could be reached by certain traveling and walking time distances. And well, again, this is a kind of the more social approach to the use and enjoyment of the green infrastructure. And finally, we do have also delivered a map that shows the dominant patterns of the relations and interactions between the consistent services. And here is where we can see the synergies between ecosystem services, and also the potential trade-offs in the provision of ecosystem services, where the planning should pay attention to overcome potential constraints and negative side effects. So this is a very, very quick overview of what a Greta project was about. And now I'm trying to focus on what the cases studies revealed with a particular zoom into the Valencia case, the Valencia metropolitan area case. Just as a quick overview of the ESPON Greta case study, we investigate 12 case studies that represent different spatial and institutional and governance settings. The Spanish cases were, as said before, focused in the Euro region, Novel Aquitania, Euskadi, and Navarra, and then in the Valencia metropolitan area. And for the focus of this particular seminar, I think the Valencia case could be more interesting. That's why I'm going to focus on this one now. When in the Valencia area, we find out that the concept used for green infrastructure is very much aligned to the one used at the European strategy. So it's conceived as a network of spaces that are strategically planned and designed to keep the nature capacity for regulating natural processes, and are also very much related to water, air, and climate challenges. So it's in line with what Michaela said before. Some elements or factors that should be taken into consideration when analyzing the Valencia metropolitan area are these elements that somehow articulate the full green infrastructure, and is, well, the Mediterranean Sea and the coastline, which is as we're going to see later on, but are a nice corridor in the coastline of blue and green infrastructure, the Valencia alluvial plain, also the River Turia and the Mediterranean forest attached to this one. Very prominent role of the cultural heritage of the huerta, which is the orchard, that has been designated as a World Agricultural Heritage by the FAO, something like UNESCO, but in the agricultural terms, and then the Albufera Lake Natural Park in the south. These four elements constitute like the backbone of the rest of the green infrastructure elements. That's cool. Well, we need to point out, or we need to understand that the key elements in the infrastructure are very much related to natural protected areas, so Natura 2000, and also some areas protected by regional laws. Also with natural heritage and biodiversity elements, very much related to cultural and heritage in terms of landscape protection, so the landscape as recognized in the Landscape Convention. And last but not, I mean, in a different order, and a second order is also the green infrastructure areas in areas at risk of natural catastrophes, mainly for flood risk. This is basically the elements that characterize the green infrastructure in the area. They are very much related to the scales. So the green infrastructure is also recognized in 3 different scales, from the rural, the urban border or peri-urban areas, and the urban. And I have highlighted the urban border areas because this plays a very prominent role in planning for the green infrastructure, because these corridors do have a very important role in connectivity and accessibility, and is where our analysis in Greta recognized that is still a gap. So we do have a very prominent and very well preserved and very well planned hubs of protected areas, and the corridors have not or could be improved, to say somehow, although the efforts by the government at the regional level and also the city level are very, very prominent. This is the map from the Greta project that tell us, like, let's say the full narrative of the green infrastructure phenomena, and the implications for planning and management. From the point of view of the potential distribution of the green infrastructure, we'll find out that the green areas covered about 30% of the region, with a clear concentration of the western part, let's say the less flat area. The structure of the green infrastructure is very much characterized, as I said before, because by large continuous hubs of protected areas. So there is also a strong pressure of the Valencia metropolitan region in terms of urbanization that could isolate this green infrastructure in big patches, to say somehow, and disconnect it from the plains. And therefore, there is an important role in planning to ensuring the connectors to avoid this isolation in large patches of hubs. So better links with peri-urban and urban and rural areas could be improved by the GI network to reduce fragmentation. And in fact, is one also of the key strategic objectives in the Valencia planning documents that I want to show later on, improving this connectivity, particularly with the orchard, that you will see later on the presentation. From the ecosystem services provision, we also find out that the region provides a good balance of provision of services, particularly in relation to biodiversity and climate change policies, although it could be improved in terms of water management issues, because the provision is quite limited. So there is, as a message from the Greta project, there is a potential for improvement of the multifunctionality and also of the connectivity. And at the city level, we also find out that although about 63% of the Valencia city is covered by green infrastructure, this is very much related to Natura 2000 areas. So it's still a potential for improvement. So again, the major challenge from the city level is also increase the connectivity between the city and particularly the orchard area.
Gemma, sorry, 2 minutes.
Oh my God, I think this is going to be shown by Jaume, because it's the maps resulting from the demand and and supply of ecosystem services. I'm going to go directly to this one because it's the one that addresses how the green infrastructure has been considered in planning in Valencia. So what we see is that the Valencia community, and there are so many people, I guess, from the university and also from the stakeholders in Valencia here in this seminar. I think the Valencian community does have a quite complex legislative framework, although it's quite mature, but it's quite complex as well. And in the last decade, the government promoted a process for reformulating the territorial and urban planning framework, considering basically that in previous decades, there was a furious economic-led development and planning. And one of the key elements of this new territorial model is the green and landscape infrastructure of the Valencia community. And that's why the concept has been mainstreamed into many different planning documents, from territorial integrated planning to specific planning to flood risk or coastal areas management. Also at the city level or local level, there has been a development of many green infrastructure local plans that are required or mandatory process for municipal urban plans. And this is a new also upcoming green plan and development in Valencia. So the incorporation of the GI concept into planning has been seen as an opportunity for territorial development, although some scholars and practitioners could also perceive it as in a less optimistic prisma, but well, there is an opportunity for this territorial development and could be particularly relevant for the Valencia rural system, which is the most vulnerable area from socioeconomic and demographic perspective. And in a current project, which is called the ARC project, an Horizon 2020 project, we have been seeing how the ecological and multi-scale connectivity and accessibility of Valencia in terms of the accessibility to the orchard has been analyzed with the perspective of the climate change adaptation. So what is the role of the orchard in terms of climate change adaptation, particularly for thermal stress? So this is an example of planning in practice, no? How the green infrastructure and the connectivity and the role of the connectors and ecological connectors have been evaluated to, let's say, to keep the social ecological complex system in Valencia area, particularly peri-urban and rural settings. I'm going to show you, and I finish in a minute, an example of planning in practice at local level, at least the novel approach that is being applied for the review of the urban master plan, in which we are also participating to trying to incorporate the climate perspective in the diagnosis of the urban planning areas with a particular focus.
Okay.
Sorry. Sorry.
I'm sorry,
fine.
Gemma.
That's fine.
I am a bad chair, but
that's
I
fine.
have.
Happy to, just because of the slides are going to share by all of you, happy to discuss later on bilaterally or at the end of the, thank you.